One of the things I get asked about most often is case studies. So people want to hear stories of people who have changed career, who have figured out what they want to do in their career and then successfully made that career shift. People want to know that it's possible and that other people have managed to figure it out and become more satisfied and fulfilled in their career. So what I want to do today is I've invited my lovely client, Elli, to join me. And I'm just going to ask her a few questions about the career change that she's made and working with me through the program and what she's achieved through that, to give you an idea of what the experience is like and some of the benefits. So thank you so much for joining me, Elli. I really do appreciate you taking the time to have a chat with me. Like I said, I just want to hear, I'd love for you to share your story with the people who are watching, and just talk about, what your experience has been like and what you've managed to achieve through thinking about what you really want in your career. So first of all, if you wouldn't mind, would you like to just give a little bit of background as to what it was you were doing in your career before we met?
Yeah, sure. I'm now at about a stage in my career where I've been working in mining for about 15 years. I came to Australia in 2006 as a backpacker, and I only meant to stay for 3 weeks, but life intervened, and I found myself very, very soon into that journey, living in a remote mining town with my now husband. And we lived there for about 7 years, during which time I began my career as a geologist in that residential town. I also had some a year exposure as a hydrogeologist there, and then I worked my way, after about 4 years, became a senior geologist, and then over time worked at different mine sites as a senior mine geologist in iron ore still. And then we relocated to Perth, and I've had a couple of project roles and worked, done some sideways steps as well. It's very fortunate, I guess, to have been accepted to do roles slightly outside my degree subject. So in a metallurgical aspect. Capacity, sorry. I've worked in a senior materials handling role as well. So I've worked between two of the major mining companies at senior levels, and then moving up to superintendent levels, doing FIFO as well in the latter years. So well, probably the next question that you'll ask will be kind of, where am I going now as well? But I'll let you get to that. But essentially, I think I've taken quite a standard route with my career in mining. That's kind of technical professional. That's kind of, I've stepped up the ranks, if you like, with some exposure to more senior roles as well. Fantastic. And that's it in a nutshell, really.
Fantastic. Okay, now that's great. And we met probably around, I don't know, I think it's about 18 months ago, something like that. And you reached out to me shortly after that, because you were interested in, having a bit of a rethink about what you wanted. Can you tell me a bit about, how you were feeling at that time and what motivated you to reach out to me?
Yeah, sure. I realized that it's important to have a network and advice from other people. Like, I don't have all the answers, and I've known that for quite a while, and I really enjoy getting support from other people, because I don't have the answers, and it's really useful to ask other people for help. So I met you when you came to a mine site to do a careers talk, and it was really fortuitous that you came, because it was just at the right time for me. I wasn't unhappy in the role that I was in. In fact, it was my dream job that I was in. I was really excited about it. But I knew that it had a finish date. It wasn't going to be going on for forever. And I thought, I've got about 18 months here where I can make a smart decision about what I do next, and not just, I reflected on previous roles that I'd had, and I was like kind of trying to understand what motivated me to go for those roles. And quite often it was, I think it was the expected next step was, from professional to senior to superintendent. And I thought, is that the right way to do it? I've got 18 months to suss it out. And it seemed that it was a very good opportunity that you popped up at that time, but that you had the Define Your Future program with I guess the 3 different levels of support. So it was just very good timing, and just what I was looking for. I wasn't in a rush, and I wasn't absolutely jacked with my job either, which was probably a good place to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, it's always good to be thinking about this when you're not in that tight spot of, I need to get a job now, or, I hate my job so much, I'm desperate to get out. That's not the ideal space to be in. So you were in that fortunate position of having a bit of a lead time and, plenty of time to really think about, what you wanted to do next. And so it was really about kind of being intentional and, about what your next move was, and making sure it was the right one for you, rather than following what someone else expected you to do, or, taking an opportunity just because that's sort of what was put in front of you. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It was deliberate, and I needed some guidance as well. And I wondered, is there a right way to do this? And I know there's no right and wrong way, but it was useful to have someone else have done the hard work in developing a framework that I could hook into. So
yeah, absolutely. So just having that structure and the different steps along the way, I think, absolutely. That's what I needed when I went through the process. And that's what a lot of people, really enjoy about the program, is that they don't have to, it's very easy to try and do it a bit backwards without kind of going through and explaining the whole process. But a lot of people sort of start too far down the process and don't do the foundational work that so the order of the steps and the process is super beneficial for sure. Okay, so you wanted to be really intentional, and can you tell me a bit about what you got out of the program? So what were you expecting when you went in, and what was the result that you got?
What was I expecting? I don't know what I was expecting. I suspect some people might think that you would tell them what job to do, what their skill set would be, and maybe, well, I've just said it, so evidently it was in my mind somewhere. But what I did get out of the process was, I guess, the framework that you've created with Define Your Future really suits my way of thinking and working, in that it, like you said, it broke it down into steps, foundational, so that I could really understand what my preferences and my skills are, and not just in terms of what I can do, but what I like to do, and what, that I get satisfaction from. Because I realized that I'd been in a number of jobs where I was good at certain aspects, but I wasn't really enjoying it. But I started to get known for doing that stuff as well. And so those opportunities kept appearing, and I kept doing the same thing again and again. And that's not that, it was bad overall, but I realized through the program exactly what I do like, and I guess considering not just the skills, but a number of the preferences related to lifestyle as well, I thought were really important. And realizing that I didn't have to just jump at one standard kind of job, that I really could think of all the different aspects that mattered to me, what I value in a job and an organization as well. I find it very useful that it was the process required and enabled me to reflect a lot on those things that I mentioned, but it really helped me reflect on previous jobs that I'd had, that I had kind of thought that that wasn't my favorite kind of job, but realized that it wasn't the entire job that I didn't like, that it was one aspect. And then that kind of helped me to realize that you can tolerate a job for longer if you understand all of those items, and maybe one or two of aspects that don't quite meet your, what you want in a job for it to be fulfilling for you. But you can always influence those as well. So I find that quite useful. It really helped me with my perspective and how I look at roles and my place in them as well. So I got a lot more out of Define Your Future than I expected.
That's fantastic. So there's so much in what you've said there. I think, that element of breaking down and really understanding the different components to a role. Is it, the tasks that you're doing, and are there some tasks that you like and some tasks that you don't like? Is it the environment that, you enjoy or don't enjoy? Is it, the subject matter and the content of what you're doing, and really getting that deep understanding of what you do and don't like, so you can, and like you said, you can actually influence some of that as well. So if you can identify what it is, perhaps you can do something about it, and you don't even have to make a change of job at all. In some ways, that's kind of the ideal scenario, isn't it? If you can make what you've currently got something that you really love. So that's absolutely fantastic. And I think the other point you made at the beginning there about how sometimes if you do one thing and you get really good at one thing, that's what people then ask you to do more of. And if that's not what you enjoy, and or something that might even make you stressed out or anxious or have a negative impact on you, that can be a really terrible trap to get stuck in. And that's something that we call burnout skills. Like if you end up doing something that you hate, or that you is having a negative impact on you, but you can get stuck in it because you get really good at it. That's that's quite a common pitfall, and I've experienced that myself as well. So that's fantastic. So much in there. That's great. So really getting that greater awareness and deep understanding of what components you like and you don't like, and then you can seek those out. So it's not necessarily a specific job title you're going for, but it's the content of the role, and what you're doing. You can break it down. That's really powerful. So then tell me a little bit about what's happened kind of since you finished the program. So you got all this great insight. You helped you to with the work that you were doing at the time, and change your perspective a bit on that. What's happened since then?
So a number of things, a number of changes occurred actually. I was asked to act in a kind of senior leadership role, which was great, and I knew there was an end date on it, and it gave me it was very useful to then understand what my preferences in a role are, and actually test it out in a little kind of experiment. Is this the role for me?
Great. So you got to test out that, do I enjoy, being a manager and the kind of responsibilities that come with that. Great. Yep.
Exactly. And then obviously could go back to my dream job. Awesome. But in the meantime, I was contacted. Well, I guess I was having a chat with a friend who was moving out of a role, and she said, would you be interested in having a look at this? And so I kind of interviewed for it and discussed the role, and so I ended up not going back to my original dream job because I knew that there was an end date. So I in the back of my mind, I was like, skills, preferences, the role I was, taking up the role from my friend. I believe that had that actually met the criteria that I was looking for in a role. But once I got into that role, I then realized that I'd interpreted it very differently, and what I thought the role was, it very much wasn't. But it was very apparent to me very quickly that it wasn't the job for me. And I've never backed out of a job that quickly, but it was not my skill set, not my values, not my preferences, and it was so obvious that I'd moved out of that role within 5 weeks. So it was very out of character to
Yeah.
not just continue, but I was getting very little joy out of it. But in the meantime,
so that
sorry, go on.
Yeah, so that, sorry to interrupt, but I think so you realize very quickly you'd made this role, you kind of, you thought it ticked all the boxes, and that's always a bit of a challenge, isn't it? We can find out as much as we possibly can about a role, and there's ways of doing that, and asking certain questions and researching and talking to people. But sometimes you don't know for sure before you actually go for the role. But it sounds like you were able to kind of identify that very, very quickly and be very decisive about, yeah, this isn't for me. I need to, I need to make another change, and pretty quickly. Yeah.
And so I again reflected on a number of items, and I got more selfish in the way that I look at my employment. And so I had to kind of think about, what does it mean to, how will I be satisfied, genuinely be satisfied? And, really I spoke to my husband and said, does money matter to us as much as we thought? He thinks so. I think less so. So, yeah, well, we discussed it thoroughly, and I was looking for a role in a smaller company. I believe that I want to work in a much smaller organization, where the impact can be felt more readily. But it's interesting. It's I applied for a role with a company external to the direct mining company, but it was through a colleague that I'd worked with in my previous dream job that I mentioned. The role involved deploying some technology in the mining in the mines. So I contacted the technology company and said, I've really enjoyed working with you. I like your vision, culture. Really impressed. I love the innovation and what you're trying to achieve. Do you have a role going? And they didn't, but they do now. And so I'll be starting that soon. So some things had to change in terms of what I've been used to, but I tried to make the outcome a lot more aligned with what I need and want, to be satisfied in my role.
Yeah, absolutely. So you kind of realize the importance of those things, identify that company as potentially, an organization that has the culture and the values and that kind of environment, the environmental things that you're looking for. And you went directly to them. That's fantastic. And they've created a role just for you.
It seems that way. It's really awesome. I can't wait to start.
You still sound a little bit surprised that's the way it's worked out, but that's absolutely happens. I think if we can be really clear about what it is we're looking for, and we're able to articulate that and say, right, what we're looking for is this, and this, they obviously, have a lot of respect for you, and they've taken that opportunity to nab you and get you on their side in their organization while you're available. That's fantastic. So how much do you think, kind of what part did the Define Your Future program play in in that process and your ability to kind of find that next role? I'm curious to know what you found helpful from it.
I think it's just understanding my values and preferences is fundamental for me, because that directly links to my, I was going to say happiness, satisfaction and fulfillment. And I think practicing that a number of times from different perspectives while I, moved into a secondment role as a manager, and then as I thought about the next role and the next role, and I started to gain confidence, both in terms of my capability, but also the process and being able to apply the fundamentals that I learned through Define Your Future. The more I practiced it, the more I realized that I was instrumental in the outcome. Yes, there's employers are looking for certain things, but, you know, you can ask for something and they can say no, and it doesn't matter, you know. So I just got a bit braver with the way that I was applying myself to get what I want.
Fantastic. That is, you know, that's absolute gold, isn't it? I mean, I think, you know, and that's what I see with people, like once they can identify what's important to them, that becomes a fundamental thing that they then, it's almost like that becomes a non-negotiable, because you realize that, no, this is so important to me. This is something that I absolutely need. And there are needs and there are wants. And, you know, I never pretend that, you know, and you know, any job out there is absolutely perfect 100%, but if you know what those fundamentals are and you know what you're looking for, and more importantly, well, not more importantly, as importantly, you can articulate that to other people, then, you know, that is incredibly powerful in being able to, you know, access opportunities, you know, and potentially even have opportunities created for you, that are aligned with what you want. And but if you can't actually articulate, if you don't know what you want, and you can't tell people that, then you're stuck. You've got no chance of actually getting you know, that alignment. So that's amazing. So thank you so much, Elli. I'm so excited for you. You know, it's you know, your experience has been, you know, it really does demonstrate kind of the, you know, what I tell people all the time, that, you know, clarity and understanding, you know, your own priorities and what's important to you and what makes you happy at the end of the day is so, you know, valuable and so worth putting the time and effort into kind of, you know, building all that up. So thank you for sharing your experience. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there any advice you'd have for people who are feeling a bit stuck and don't really know what they want, or who are considering maybe getting some support?
Sure. I think you've got to look inside yourself. Like, no one's going to fix this for you. So it's really useful to have the framework that you've developed. And like you just said there about the clarity, but how do you know what's broken if you don't know what good looks like for you? So you may, you know, potential clients might be unhappy with the role that they're in, but what part are they playing? You know, reflecting on your own experiences and understanding what it is that you need to feel satisfied and fulfilled is really important. And you can't do nothing and expect something to change, because you know, or your employer is still an employer, and you know, your perspective is like 95% of what you get out of it, really. I'd gone through a number of different roles, and you know, there was always something just kind of niggling in the background, and you know, the process made me kind of think, the constant in this is me. So only I can influence the outcome. So my advice would be, you know, come with an open mind and reflect on your contribution, your own contribution, and don't do nothing.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much. That is absolutely great advice. You're right. If you don't put the time in and make the change yourself, then nothing will change, for sure. So thanks again for your time, Elli. It's I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and share your experience. And we'll leave it there. Thanks again, and you have a really great day.
You too. Thanks, Anna.
No worries. Thank you.